a lawsuit to end the National Guard deployment in Memphis. The group sued Governor Bill Lee and other state officials, arguing the deployment violates the state constitution. WREG's Brian Ditlake spoke with some of those involved in this case.
Earlier today, we filed a lawsuit against the governor of Tennessee, the Tennessee Attorney General, and the Major General.
Memphis City Councilman J.B. Smiley announcing a lawsuit Friday, arguing that the way the Tennessee National Guard was deployed is illegal.
We're not talking about any other federal agencies. We're only talking about the way that the National Guard was deployed to Memphis. That is unconstitutional.
Smiley joins a host of state lawmakers and other local leaders. The 23-page suit points to the state constitution, which restricts the governor's ability to deploy the National Guard outside of severe circumstances like weather events, riot, invasion, or insurrection. State Representative J.A. Hardaway says on the state side, when Governor Bill Lee accepted federal resources from the Trump administration, he did so without bringing it to the Tennessee General Assembly.
He hasn't offered any type of evidence, in fact, quite the opposite, that we're in the middle of any type of insurrection or lawlessness, etc.
The lawsuit goes on to accuse the Trump administration of using National Guard.
Okay, so Memphis is trying to sue the National Guard. Now, this throws me off in so many different ways because, all these places, they all think that they're going to somehow, hey, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to put paperwork on these guys so that we can prevent them from doing what, they want to do. And that's understandable. It would be very understandable for you guys to make sure that your city is taken care of. Your citizens aren't worried about the National Guard coming through and taking over. However, that's not quite the case here. It looks to be as if the National Guard is doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're coming into an area where it is very dangerous. Everybody I know from Memphis brags about how dangerous Memphis is. They're one of the top cities that, you move somewhere else and you say, yeah, I'm from Memphis. Saying, hey, I'm tough. I'm from Memphis. So now that National Guard is coming there, because everybody's so tough there, everybody's so gang related, everybody's so criminal minded, that they finally showed up and they say, hey, we're going to put an end to that. We're going to make Memphis a livable city again. We're going to make Memphis a livable city again. And everybody hates that. And I just don't understand it.
Members as a part of a broader effort to use U.S. forces domestically, particularly in places where he has political opponents.
We don't need to be in a position where the federal government, Trump in particular, is playing with the lives of Memphians.
The lawsuit calls for a restraining order or temporary injunction to the end of the deployment.
And then they say playing with the lives of Memphians. You guys are quite literally playing with the lives of Memphians whenever you guys are choosing not to do anything about the crime in your own city. When you guys are choosing to request funding instead of actually making an action towards cleaning up your own city and community. That is harming Memphians. That is putting danger in play for all the Memphians in the city. There's been plenty of times, I'm sure they have reached out to you guys about a plan, just like they've reached out to all the other cities that they've been coming to or that they plan on coming to gather a plan, see exactly what the goal was for you guys to clean up your cities. From what I've been seeing, it seems like everybody's just been asking for more funding, which hasn't been working because, here we are, you guys got the funding, but the city is still corrupt. The city is still, dangerous. I wouldn't want to travel to Memphis, Tennessee for any reason. There's no reason why a tourist would go there.
We would like to see safety reimagined in our community, and safety does not look like being over-policed and overset with this overreach of the federal agencies in our city.
Advocates as well as leaders listed in the lawsuit both want to see crime go down, but not with the National Guard. The group claims the city of Memphis has asked for more help with crime, suggesting this scenario would be different if state leaders had listened.
I just have a hard time with people who talk about a community they're unwilling to spend time in. There's a gentleman named Brian Stevenson that says the only way to address a problem is being in close proximity with it.
In Memphis, Brian Ditlake for your news leader, WREG News Channel 3.
As you might imagine,
and I understand that, it's hard to talk about a place that you're not from. and describe what would be better for that city or that place. However, whenever the people who are there are describing plans and situations that they have going on to better the environment in their own city, and we're not getting any of the results from that, eventually at some point, somebody's going to end up stepping in and making the actions that you choose not to take.
This is getting lots of reaction. And from one of those people, Republican State Representative John Gillespie, he is also weighing in on this tonight. In a message on social media, he says the task force is consistently arresting violent, repeat offenders and gang members off of our streets and have found nearly 50 missing children. He goes on to say that Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris and Commissioners Erica Sugarman and Henry Brooks want to stop it. Gillespie called it absurd and unacceptable leadership.
So, 50 children missing have been found. This is amazing. I mean, I can't see how anybody else doesn't celebrate at the fact that 50 missing children have been found. That is 50 families that were affected by the crime in Memphis that have already seen the results of the National Guard being there, and they haven't been there that long. They haven't been there that long. And we always complain, hey, police never do their job. They're just bothering us in the neighborhoods. There's murders out there that they're not solving. There's this going on. And then here comes the National Guard, and they're getting to the bottom of things. And here we are. We're angry. We're angry. Why are we angry? I don't know. Sometimes I just think this is about accountability. But are we really angry, or are we compliant? That's the real question. I think most of us are being compliant and portraying that we're angry. We're portraying that we're angry about the situation. But in reality, we don't realize it's a blessing in disguise. Getting all these criminals off the street, is a blessing. I mean, you know how much of a difference this is going to make in your kids' lives? A big, big difference. One of the main reasons why I actually have been talking to my family about how we're going to move out of the city that we're in is because growing up here, I felt that the crime is just too high for the area that we're in. It's the city is just tainted, and I guess the culture, the rap culture, the popular culture of everybody has to be a drug dealer or a murderer to be anybody important. And if that's you, if you're thinking like that, if you're thinking that you need to get your kids away from that type of environment, then you shouldn't be upset that the National Guard is coming to clean up your city.